Hey, 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 what's up, Crown Nation? Welcome to Rock the Crown. And today we are going to have some juicy stuff for you all. And before we get started, want to go ahead and let you all come into the room, but reminding you that you're here with your queen, Naima, and my queen, Nefertari, and our special guest, Brother Faruq Hunter, way on the other side of town, but also on this side of town. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So, coming into the room, today we are talking about building international neighborhoods and Freedom Nation. And if you haven't heard about Freedom Nation, you are way behind. But again, we know that one of the things that is so important for community building is not just building in your locale, but also having an international presence. So, Brother Faruq, welcome to Rock the Crown. What's up? Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for the welcome, my sisters. I appreciate it. And you know, it was worth getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and had this conversation.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. And again, we're going to start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself, right?
So of course, I go these days by Chairman Farouk Hunter just because every time I walk into a mosque, somebody tries to call me Imam. And I'm telling them, I don't want to be an Imam. My dad was one. I don't want to be one. Um, I don't want that responsibility. Instead, we started the Freedom Nation and took the responsibility of trying to build the dream of our communities, that Marcus Garvey dream, that Booker T. Washington Greenwood dream, that idea of building a place of self-governance, self-sustenance. Me, myself, I'm from Atlanta, but I'm here in Kazakhstan, in Astana,
Ooh.
Kazakhstan, where we have a division, an arm of the Freedom Nation. Here we have our agricultural properties, 10,000 acres here. We've got another 12 acres on the Chinese border. We have our main office here that does our main support and administrative office for the Freedom Nation.
Excellent. Okay, so Nefertari, you want to go ahead and ask the next question?
Yeah. So, you kind of told us a little bit about you being the chairman and what you don't want to be. Tell us a little bit more on the personal side as far as your family. Give us a little picture of that, and also what does family mean to you?
So first of all, I'm second generation Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I always debate with a couple other families, well, only one other family in Atlanta, that we have the largest Muslim family in the Southeast, at least the Southeast, if not the eastern side. There's 300 plus Muslims in our family.
What?
With even me myself, right now we count 72 nieces and nephews, 10 kids. And then that didn't include the adopted guys. Those adopted kids, them adopted grandbabies. I've got 3 grandchildren, and I've been married now successfully going on 20 years. This is the family is, I used to debate with my father all the time. He would tell me that, our purpose here was to serve the community, to build the community. And I used to say, Abu, our family's so big, I could serve the community just by taking care of the family. What else do I need to do? And, when he passed, he left a couple of nuggets that stuck in my head and in my heart. And, the reality of it is you have a beautiful family, but you can't take care of your family without taking care of the community, because your family can't marry your family. Well, we don't want our family to marry our family. That's some weird stuff. But so the reality is that
Right.
I had a young brother whose father had started a small community in Colorado, and it was out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, nowhere. And you go out there, there was just a big empty field, 5 houses, and 3 miles back, you can see the mountains just looming over the place. And I used to think it was beautiful when we drove out there and we met him, me and my older brother, Imam Hassan. But when we later on, all of them left. All the children left, every last one of them. And I asked the brother several years ago, I was one of the young brothers, I was like, man, why did y'all all leave? Why didn't y'all continue what your father put together? And he said, if you want to do something like that, you need to make sure that your children have spouses that want to do something like that. And so, our community, all the way back from, a lot of people don't know this, but there were over 208 Black towns in the early 1900s in the United States. A lot of them followed the Booker T. Washington Greenwood model. I think something I probably should. I'm from Tuskegee, Alabama, so I grew
Mm.
up with the Booker T concept. My great grandmother was a student of Booker T. Washington, but they use that Greenwood concept that Booker T, when he showed up at Black Wall Street, he called the Greenwood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street. That name came from him.
Mhm.
But they did not, contrary to belief, 1917, Red Summer, where they burned and killed several villages, several towns, killed almost 100,000 Black people during that one year.
Mm.
All the lynching and everything else, Rosewood, Black Wall Street, that did not destroy the Black town.
That's
Mm.
right.
You
That's right.
actually look back and realize that 90% of the Black towns were destroyed simply because the children saw better opportunity by going to the city, and they had lost the importance and significance of having a Black power base in that Black town. So it was our own abandonment that caused our failure. And
Mm.
so, of course, there's a lot of focus now, not just on the family, but definitely on nurturing the community. The whole thing we're doing right now is realizing these efforts come from a nurtured community, not the other way around.
Man, that was a deep answer. And I,
Right.
I never really thought about. I didn't look for all that, but that touched me. That touched me on that. But
Right.
that's something though. When you talk about just all of the different catastrophes, I would describe it as when we talk about the things that have torn our community down. You really have a point there when you talk about that particular thing just wasn't it. It was what we do and how we do as far as staying connected and continuing that pattern. And it's so important what you said as far as marrying spouses who can see the vision and can accept whatever it is to continue the path of, so that it doesn't dwindle down to nothing, because after one generation, two generations, by the time the third generation, if you don't have that, then it just it's wiped out.
You can just go away like no matter how powerful it is, no matter how beautiful it is, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter. If you cannot modernize the movement,
Yeah.
engage the youth, and it's, I'm gonna tell you, it's a very interesting concept because individuality inside American society is massive. And it's not even productive individuality. It's an obsession with the
Right.
idea of individuality. It
Yeah.
has nothing to do with true success
Mm.
because there's no single person that claims to be an individual that goes out here and then just goes and just makes money, just makes success. It don't happen. You ask
Right.
someone's permission. So you're going to work with somebody, you just ain't working with your somebody.
Mhm.
So the thing is that but we have failed though. Institutionally, we have historically failed to modernize what we do in order to maintain the interests of the youth. We've also failed highly in passing off our leadership so that the leadership is with those young people. And a lot of
Mhm.
people just think that the young people, you just hand that leadership to them. Here, you came along, you're the young person. Here you go. No,
Right. Right.
we've
Right.
also failed to teach them
That's
what
right.
succession truly looks like
Yes.
Mhm.
and give them examples and put them around people. I mean, it's one of the reasons we're in Kazakhstan is because I have the 4 children I'm with that are with me now, raising them around society that understands family, tribal things, succession, all of those different concepts as a natural part of who they are. And that's one thing I felt like I needed to pull back for a second to build and then reinstate back into Black community. And that's that in my own family. Even a lot of my kids, they're married, of course, African Americans, but some of them I encourage them marry outside. And the reason I'm telling you to marry outside is to bring that culture inside, not so you can go run, but bring that culture inside so it can enhance the structure of our family, so that we can be a beacon for how to interact with one another and show how to maintain the community multi-generational.
So
So
I also want to go back to I want to go back to a couple of points that you were making about, of course, how we have basically failed because we have, and leadership, how leadership is passed on. Like, oh yeah, you're the young person here. Here's the baton, but I'm not going to really tell you or show you how to
Mhm.
lead with that baton. Right? I was listening to a young lady. Where basically I was walking down the street and she was telling this young man, she was like, you need to learn how to do something. I can't even remember what she was saying to him. But I was thinking to myself, well, did you teach him? Because he was probably like 10 years old, right? And
Mhm.
so I think that we oftentimes have this false sense of like, yeah, you need to learn, but we forget that we have to teach, right?
Mhm.
And with that whole sense of teaching, how we know that you talked about your family and everything, what made you decide to say, you know what, I'm going to this particular, I'm moving all the way to what is it, Kazakhstan, right?
Kazakhstan. You know,
Kazakhstan.
I listen. I sit here. We work real close with the ambassador from Kazakhstan to the United States, and
Okay.
with Kazakh Invest, an investment committee under the president of Tokayev. But we every time they talk, I try to explain to them. I said, our people don't even know how to pronounce the name of this damn thing.
Right.
Excuse my curse. And they don't get it. Like, I'd be like, do you have any idea? Even my mother, when I talked to her, she's like, you still over there in Kasamakalaka, Kusubuku, Kasawaka? I'm in Kazakhstan, mama. You know,
Right.
that's the thing. So I don't knock you for it. But you know, it's a very interesting thing. You know, I've got this thing where I walk up anywhere in Central Asia, anywhere in Eastern Europe. If I see, and I've traveled all throughout those places, if I see a black person, I'm gonna come to you. I'm just gonna come to you, middle of nowhere. Like, what's up? I even saw since we were in Kosovo. It was so deep. She just walking by, and I was with my wife and my brother, and I just looked at her. I don't know her from Adam. I said, "Stop! You know what time it is?" She said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "We going to lunch right now over there." She said, "Okay." And this woman is not a soft lady. She was a police officer in South Carolina, came there to reinstate the rule of law in Kosovo. She's
Wow.
the head of the security desk in the United Nations in New York now. And this woman is
Wow.
not a soft woman, but just me approaching her like that, she understood. Ain't
Yeah.
enough of us here. You
Mhm.
know, and even
Right.
in Kazakhstan, I say, I'm not a black guy in Kazakhstan. I'm the black guy in Kazakhstan.
Right.
Mhm.
Like, you know, Faruq, who's
There's a
the
difference.
black guy? That's him. That's him.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
so but it's laughable, but it's
mhm.
a shame at the same time. It's a
Mm,
shame because you know I'm just sitting back and I'm not even like engaging. I was in a car laying back. I was with a guy who was a VP at an electricity company. Him and his brother were, and so when we rolled up, these are people who well to do, doing okay, and he didn't see me in the car. Like, so he wasn't approaching me. He was approaching his brother, his blood brother, and he was like, "Yo, my nigga, what's up?" And he was like, I was like, whoa, really? And so then he saw me, he was like, ha ha! He was like, oh. So they just
Mm,
even out of just adoration for our music, adoration for our culture, they're picking it up, but we don't show up.
mm,
So
right.
they
Yeah.
they don't even know. But I'm in Kazakhstan. Everything that I do, I try to do in an extremely strategic way. And part of our movement is to take key or place ourselves in key strategical areas of the supply chain, the global supply chain.
Hmm.
You know, we have this idea that if you want to create a space of self-sustainability, what we say about the Freedom Nation, the Freedom Villages, you know, we have 205-acre Freedom Village in Hancock County. It's been split up to like 150 lots, and we've sold 120 of them already.
Right.
And that's only because we just put the 30 on the market 2 days ago. The we have the different things here, but if you're going to do that and you want true self-determination, you have to cut off where other people might stop you from doing what you want to do. We
Right.
mm,
can't talk independence and self-governance if tomorrow everybody ain't got no toilet tissue, because the same folks you was talking about hurting you could just turn the supply off from outside your space.
Right.
So we decided to engage at the core of the supply chain, but not just the current one, because then we would have went to Shanghai. But we thought about the future. And the Silk Road was that thing that was destroyed by colonialism. That was
Mm,
the way that for thousands of years things went between Africa and Asia and other places. So China said, hey, we're going to put, and listen, this word is real, we're going to put trillion, $20 trillion
hmm.
in reestablishing the infrastructure to a modern Silk Road. And I came about that when I was vice president of the World Trade Center. And I was inside of China. And I heard it and I was like, wait, I've never heard of this before. Who that? What the hell is going 20 trillion? Nobody spends 20 trillion. The
Mm-hmm.
U.S. government don't spend 20 trillion in a year. Nobody spends 20 trillion on a project. And so
Right.
I said, this is the biggest thing in the world, but we don't know about it.
Yeah.
And so one of them is what they call the Western Gate. And the Western Gate, they call it Eastern Gate in Kazakhstan, Western Gate in China. It's where you historically have gone. It's a place called Khargos, where you historically have all of the land traffic from China go into Europe and into Africa
Mm-hmm.
and into the Middle East. That has been totally reestablished, totally. And the pressure from Russia, even people think it's a bad thing. Ironically enough, it opened up the pathways of Iran, which were closed before. But the U.S. needed partners in Kazakhstan, so they got out of their way to open up the railroad lines to Iran. So we put ourselves right at the core, and we are the only Americans, let alone African Americans, that have a physical space on the Silk Road in one of its key transportation infrastructures.
Wow. Wow. So
That's a big
what are
deal.
your plans? What are your plans while you're living there? I know you've been there for how long? 5 years, you said, right?
Almost 5 years now, yes.
Almost 5 years. So I know that you've done a lot. If you could just kind of share a little bit of, give us a little blueprint of what you've done so far, or footsteps of what you've done so far, and then tell us about your blueprint of what you kind of see in the near future.
So this is one of 5
Mm-hmm.
key areas, right? The first was just Georgia. That's home.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in Georgia's future. I believe that the Black population in Georgia will continue to grow as long as people aren't nearsighted. I believe that people in Atlanta need to move the heck out of Atlanta and spread themselves around the state so that
Right.
they have a better strength and better power base for different elections that happen.
Mm-hmm.
But there was that base in between Savannah and Atlanta was strategically placed in Sparta, a 90% African American town. Hancock County has a small population that can utilize any economic development that's willing to place itself there. It's between the third largest seaport in the country and the busiest airport in the world. I think that's significant. That from a strategic standpoint, our involvement in Hancock County is really relevant. And so we have that 205 acres. We put it there, and we're working hard to be able to put ourselves as a fixture in that space. The county commissioner is elected with 3,000 votes. The county commissioner is elected with
Wow,
3,000 votes.
that's all.
Okay,
We
yeah,
look. We have that. Amongst us on Facebook, right?
our district commissioner is elected with 330 votes.
Wow.
Literally, right now in the Freedom Nation, we have short of 500 people. If
Mhm.
we were just to put those people in that subdivision tomorrow, we control the entire district vote on the commission side, right? And
Wow.
it's an unincorporated county. So it's very significant. It's a very real move. And when you control the commission seat, people don't know this, you control all the zoning laws, all of them. You
Mm-hmm.
can change them at little. You can do what you need to do. So that's an amazing thing that we're trying to work towards. I encourage people, let's colonize Hancock County. Let's be the colonizer. We are the colonizer.
Remember when you first started, and you were like just doing the land, and they purchased the land, and then there was like a little system you had in place for building. So has a lot of building taken place already, or do they just still have the land right now?
We're building 5 houses right now. We call it the foundational 5.
Mm-hmm.
We did that for 2 reasons, because we needed a small group that was willing to make a commitment to ensure their houses were built by a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
Secondarily, the county law restricts us from building more than 5 houses until we have a fully approved subdivision plan. So there are some restrictions in how we build the subdivision plan based on the use of private roads. So we've been what we've done is we elected a village council. They elected a mayor. We did it under the condominium laws of Georgia. So these are legal positions that they have and legal authority that they have in order to manage that space. And then we set out of that a subdivision development committee and put a liaison in place to work with the zoning board and to find out. And there's, between myself as chairman and Brother David Muhammad as mayor, we've been negotiating with the commissioners, the board of commissioners, to ensure that we would have our subdivision plan executed and passed before the end of next year. So while we're building these 5 houses, that's happening. the probably the most important part is our recognition of the significance of credit and the fact that we had to create a credit system
Right.
for the villagers. Now we were able to just negotiate deals. One here in Kazakhstan as well. We took an entire factory in Kazakhstan. We have a beautiful family that works with us that has helped us do a lot of things. And they pretty much just gave their factory to us and said, look, you can build houses at the bare cost. I'm talking about material and just hourly wages, right?
Wow.
So they don't make any money for their lights. They don't make no money for the machines. They don't make no money for the gas. They don't make no money for nothing, right? Just so that we can offer a 20% down payment and then finance 80% over the course of 20 years with no interest for all of our citizens. So we have that program in place. We already have people in it, engaged in it. And then now recently we started what we call a DAO. So we registered the Freedom Nation DAO Treasury LLC, which raises money through the sale of Freedom Credit as a cryptocurrency. And that money from the credit is used to then help give a hard money loan against the 20%. And that 20% then goes down where it can be paid over the course of 5 years. So we're trying to make it so that people can buy their house for just a little under about $5,000. They can get into a $300,000 house and then start paying a really low monthly payment. But that's been a lot of work. It's a tremendous amount of work in order to create those credit instruments.
That's awesome. Well, you kind of talked about what's going on the Georgia side. So, you still have to finish answering that question on. Okay, let me get it right. Kazakhstan.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So the Kazakhstan side, one of the things that we did here is first we set ourselves up in the Astana International Finance Center. I don't know, I sometimes feel a need to explain two terms that I think a lot of us in business, especially when you get an international business, you really need to understand the two terms. And one is what an SCZ is and an FEZ is, right? So special economic zones and free economic zones. We exist in a special economic zone that has special laws that allow us to operate inside of the country. The Astana International Finance Center, the Astana International Exchange, and AFSA, the Astana Financial Services Authority, they're an entire half of the city is dedicated to that district. And we operate inside that district. I see it here out my window now, actually. We operate in that district. And if you ever look up Kazakhstan and you see this big spaceship building with Darth Vader ball in the middle, that's our office is right in there.
Okay.
So but it gives us special legal authority. It puts us under a law that was fashioned after a British law system. So it's more familiar to the legal structures we're used to using in the United States. Because of course our law was fashioned the same way. It gives us authority for an arbitration court, which means that any of the rules that we create inside of our space can be adhered to in any country that's in the arbitration agreement under the United Nations, which is 132 countries. So we basically, you win a case here and then they send that paper to whatever country and that judge has to enforce it inside of that country. So it's a very unique structure to be in that SEZ. So we developed the office there. It's a beautiful space. It's about 3,200 square feet. We have seats now for about 32 people. And those, we also have foreign staff that work for companies in the US that are citizen companies. So, we open up a plethora of resources to our citizens. One of them is to hire foreign workers that are managed foreign workers. So we manage them. A lot of folks in our community, I don't think even know that my profession is program management. So I've been a program management, project manager, business analyst for years. I worked at Cox, Coke, worked at Federal Express, all those big names. And I can the last thing I think I did before I left the United States is we changed the entire agile delivery methodology for all of Cox Media Group. I did that with just one other person, at a heck of a savings. And so that's been our profession. So we've included that in our management office that manages the Freedom Nation. And that management office we've established here in Kazakhstan. So it is a highly professional program management. And we have a tremendous dedication to automation and automating services and processes. So, we do a lot of work at our office. Secondarily, we secured a management agreement for and I know this is going to be hard to visualize because before I went there, it was hard for me. It's a 320,000 acre farm.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's not easy to visualize. I
Right.
sent one picture back with me standing on the hill, looking way out in the distance. That wasn't even a tenth of the darn farm. You
Right.
know, the
Yeah. Yeah.
farm, you can go 10 miles in one direction and 10 miles in another and not reach the end of either edge.
Right.
And so
A little country.
it's a little, you know, but the interesting part is it was established as one of the first farms to celebrate the relationship between the United States and Kazakhstan under the Clinton administration. So that we have American Black Angus there. We have, you know, along with Kazakh Whitehead, and we don't like them to mix, but we do have some Black Whiteheads out there, weird looking cows running around. But then we also have several acres of plant. Last year, we planted 4,000 acres of wheat. We now took a portion of that, 10,000 acres, and we signed our own lease to the 10,000 acres so that we could grow wheat. The only reason we didn't grow wheat this year to send to the U.S. is because there was a blockade on it because of fears of shortages from Russia. So we
Russia,
couldn't
yeah.
we couldn't do that because of the American embargoes against Russia. So that was that. But next year we have that capacity. We plan to take advantage of it. We have a wheat gin out there. So we can, you know, we can mill flour, everything else with a wheat mill. Then in addition to that, we have 500 workers that are in the 2 villages that were saved by creating the farm. We
Wow.
dial it up in the summer. We employ about 120 people every year out there. Then we also have on the border, there is an SEZ and an FEZ. The SEZ is
Okay.
the largest dry port in the world. It's the Cargos dry port. And we have the bonded warehouse on the Cargos dry port. So bonded warehouse, meaning that if you ship from China directly into our warehouse, you pay no duties, no taxes, no tariffs, no nothing. You just store it. We put it in your inventory. We have a full fulfillment service that we've developed with a partnership that we developed with the local postal service. So the state-owned postal service is CosPost, and we've made an integration with them and developed CosPost fulfillment services. It's 100% Black-owned, trying to convince people they can save a ridiculous amount of money by
Right.
using it that way. You know, a lot of our Black-owned businesses actually do ship from China, lots of them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
And so we're trying to put ourselves at the heart of that and take
Right.
control over that. And that specializes it allows us to let people buy stuff from the US and we can ship it from that place to the US and you can receive it in 5 days. So
So
it's a
I'm
it's
sorry,
an,
I gotta cut you off, bro. It's a lot of information. Hold on, what? Hold on.
I know.
she asked me what I did since I've
I
been here.
know.
I
Well, the
know.
question is, right. So I have 2
That's never
questions
Terry's
before you
fault.
go on. One about the agricultural aspect of the
Yeah,
land that you
all
have.
that.
How are you partnering with local, maybe urban farmers here in Georgia to maybe take some of the people who have graduated from some of these urban farming communities and classes here to go and maybe recruit them to be in Kazakhstan, and or have you also reached out to many of the Black platforms that have Black-owned businesses on their platform, because it's thousands of them now, right? And have you reached out to them to see how many of them want to onboard in terms of having that fulfillment process through what you just talked about?
Yeah, the answer to your question is absolutely yes. We spend a tremendous amount of time calling, talking, working with people. I even went to some of the HSBCUs. My cousin is the head of international for Tuskegee University. I've even sat with her. But the problem is
Yeah, tell me
our
that.
people's imagination
Oh,
around their own abilities is about as limited as anything on earth.
yes, I got
And
you.
that's the truth. And when you tell people, hey, man, here you are busting your behind as an urban farmer. Look, the term sounds sexy, but let's be realistic.
Mhm.
You're growing in the middle of the darn city.
Right.
The capacity required in order to actually feed the people at a decent level cannot be done today in an urban space. I didn't say tomorrow. We got like Sky Farms in Singapore that's given us a great example of what it means to do vertical urban farming and stuff like that. But
Mm.
today, inside, we don't have any initiatives that big. Look, one of my buddies is Nuri Rashid. I mean, I love him to death.
Right.
And when I first met Rashid, I brought my kids out there, and he, sitting with me, and he was like, "Yeah, brother, you're gonna need this to get this done, get this done." And he looked around, he saw my kids, he saw what we doing. He was like, "Oh, you got everything you need." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Look, we're dealing with more than you can visualize.
Right. Right.
I have to take you out here so you can see it, because you don't have a scope on it." How many brothers do we know, regardless of their station, have actually spent time on a 320,000 acre farm?
None. Nobody. They haven't even spent time on a 324,000 acre farm, much less 324,000. And only the reason I'm asking that specifically is because I personally work with Truly Living Well. Of course, Rashid Nuri is not the executive director anymore, but
Right.
because the future is endless, right? So just thinking about various opportunities to open up, where if people came into that space, what could we do to not only help Freedom Nation here in Georgia, but also, again, internationally? How can we get our people to think bigger, broader, and more internationally? And, I always like to say, one thing that the world is happy that they're keeping the black man down is that a black man doesn't have a passport. And unfortunately, we can't have our black men being world leaders if they don't travel. And so we really need to think about how we can allow for them to expand even their own vision by traveling. And that requires someone who's been there to take them with them, right? So I've always, I'm definitely making sure that my sons get their passports. Two of them have them, so two to go. And I mean, it's just so important that we have to have the space for black
I'm ready
men
to go.
to show up in the world,
Listen, I'm gonna
right?
hold you to that.
Right, yeah.
You just spoke about layers, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
So here's the action layer. That's the layer of, let me put on the ground, let me put on my crown, and let me start thinking with the right mindset to maneuver in this space. Now, we've
yes,
made that really easy because it was expensive and it was hard to
right.
be able to put ourselves. We did a lot of strategic work. We did 8 months of strategy before
Mhm.
coming out here. We had ambassadors on our board. We had the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's way bigger than anyone could imagine that we did to soften the blow of coming
Right.
and being functional in the space. You hit the
Mhm.
ground here. We just had 3 sisters that were Freedom Citizens show up the other day. When they hit the ground here, they came at 3 o'clock in the morning and was sat down and welcomed with grits and eggs and sausage. Listen, let me tell you something. That ain't
Yeah,
easy
I
to
mean,
come
we're
all the way
coming
across the
for
world.
2023. We want the
You know what
grits,
I'm saying?
eggs, and
And
stuff too.
they was like this. They was like, "Yo, are we in Alabama? Are we
Oh
so
my.
that's hard to do that, and we do it, and we've maintained it, and we've done it not just here. We've previously done it in Morocco. We've previously done it in Malaysia. We've previously done it in other places. We have been very good as a family alone, just between myself and my brother Isan, of making it
Right.
comfortable. No one should forget, my brother Isan was one of the first. He was the first American student to graduate as a Hafiz out of Senegal, the
Mm.
first one. So
Wow.
we've been in these spaces. We've been building relationships. We speak several languages. I have at least 7 different countries married into my family. So we
Right.
open up all these different spaces for people and make it open. So that's way up here, though, right? That's there.
But that's where we need to be. So don't dumb
But
it down now.
we need to be there. But then you went layer by layer by layer by layer by layer down to the core, which is just exposure to understand the possibilities and the size of the world, and more importantly, to understand how the world actually welcomes you to come.
Yes, that
That
part.
step alone, we have a penetration of about 2%.
Right.
2% of Black people have their passport.
Yeah.
2%.
Wow.
That's crazy. And so we really got to get out of the area code. The area code, if you're not even in a political space, your area code means absolutely nothing. All of this, repping your zone and stuff, your zone means nothing. Okay? It means nothing because you have no power inside of that zone. So really thinking of where can we actually have power, especially again, Black men, where can they have power in the world? And it's not here.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, no, I'm gonna say it. We live in an interesting time, and we were in a space where, and I'm a very traditional nuclear family guy. Let me just put it right on the. I ain't trying to
Okay.
break up the nuclear family. I like it.
Right,
Uh,
Mhm.
the
right.
but in my view, my understanding of the Quran is that means that black men have the first responsibility, not the first authority, right? The
Mm,
first responsibility is that they have to be excellent leaders. We
Mhm.
have gotten into a space where our black men are always those excellent leaders. And it has done something. Allah never told us that our women were incapable of doing what we do. That He
Mhm.
just told us the best order to have.
right.
But
Yes.
when that order is broken by the men, right? I had a cousin guy, he said, Faruq, you don't have a problem with women in your country. I was like, man, black women, they do their thing. He was like, you got weak men. He said,
Mhm.
that's your problem. He said, you get over that, you won't have a problem. And I said, I don't know if I can disagree with you. That seems very true, actually.
Right,
So
right,
Mhm.
in this case, we can't sit around and tell our family and our children, and I mean the children of the community, to just wait until the
right,
men get better.
right. That's
So
exactly right.
every time I lead a lot of trips. I have been leading international trips. Sister Sultana, who's over the Muslim Journal.
Mhm.
I took her to Asia. We went to 4 countries together. We went to Hong Kong. We went to India. I taught her how to ride a motorcycle. She's
Right.
so I've taken people. Since Janelle took them to Senegal, to South Africa, took them to Nairobi, took them to Egypt, took them to China. I've taken people to 37 countries in this world
Mhm.
over and over again.
Awesome.
And I'm always willing to build these trips and everything else. I do not make hardly any money off of them. I try to
Mhm.
make it as cheap as possible. And I go overboard trying to help the people and make sure that they're comfortable and that they acclimate, that they don't have a bad experience. But, I cannot say that it's just a place for black men anymore, because literally 80% of the people I have taken overseas have been women.
Have been women. Yes, that's what I'm
Now,
saying. Like,
now let me
yeah,
say out loud. Let me say out loud. Our sisters got a way of trying to make the only guy leading a party into like a pseudo husband and beat the hell out of him while they traveling. Like, my wife knows it be wearing me out. Girl be
right,
breaking down on me and stuff, and I'd be like, oh man.
right. You need some more brothers by your side to help you lead all these women. You've taken on these
No,
trips.
I started calling the older sisters in the community, like, I need you to come on the next trip and be like,
Right.
house mama. I can't do it. I just can't do it no more. Listen, our sisters are dynamic and awesome, but I have to be very
Amazing.
honest when I say there's a different level of emotional commitment you have to make in
No
order
doubt.
to lead them.
No doubt.
And when it's just a group of sisters, I find myself just better just falling back. I'll be facilitator and guide, let my sisters lead each other, and let me just there wasn't no room for any testosterone in this situation. That there was an estrogen cloud. And I said, okay, as long as I can entertain that cloud's a powerful cloud. So I need
Right.
to just step back and take a seat. So it's both. And I have to say I'm speaking to both, because a lot of our opportunities, I believe, in this era
Hmm.
will be born from dynamic women doing amazing things.
Yeah.
People reaching the level, like I like one of my examples. She's not black, but Lucille Ball and what she did with her family was
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, amazing what she created. So that's and she was probably one of the least racist people of the time.
Hmm.
But the our women are going to do those things. And
Hmm.
so I'm here to facilitate both our men and our women. Of course, I'd like to sit around in the sauna in my skippies with a bunch of dudes, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? And then let's go jump out in the snow,
Right.
but
Right.
community level, we need to, we are happy to facilitate both. And when it comes to exposure on an international level, we have 2 trips planned this year. And even in the 28th, we're going to Turkey, to Antalya. And I tried to solicit people for my Jubilee. But we'll be down at
Where
the
are you
resort.
going at
And
the 28th?
on the 28th, we're going to Antalya in South Turkey. We taking a full halal, full service 6-star resort for 10 days. The family and everybody else just relax for a minute, spend some time after we leave there in Istanbul for 2-3 days. It's only a 4.5-hour flight from Kazakhstan.
Yeah, so
I didn't.
Jaya and I will be in Istanbul on the 10th of January.
We're leaving on the 9th.
Ah! It's a day
But
too
we might be able to make that happen. But the problem is my son brought his ticket to come over, and he's coming back to Kazakhstan on the 9th. So I didn't want him to come here by
Yeah.
himself.
Oh,
So
totally understand. But again, the synergies, right? It's all sometimes you don't realize that you're moving in the same path as other people until you speak it, right?
Mhm.
And so there may be more people that are even listening this evening that are right where you need them to be, but they're not able to, they don't realize that there is a conduit to connect directly to this cause. So that's another reason why we wanted to make sure that we had you on. I know that we've been saying for like over a year, yeah, we're going to have you on, you're going to have you on. But now it's kind of like, sometimes it's that the people aren't ready to have you. But now that you're speaking this, they know we know that there are some local connections. But again, like me personally, I would love for all of my sons really to try to connect with you on some kind of level, to travel overseas and to see where they can even fit in. I know Nefertari has some sons, so just trying to figure out like how we can really build, like, we already have a community here in Atlanta, but how can we now take that community in Atlanta also to different heights and to different levels internationally, and especially for those who maybe not even put a footing down, like their minds are so open that they'd be ready to accept whatever you have to offer.
yeah. Well, first of all, my first invitation to you, I do remember it now that you say it, was for you to do Rock the Crown on Shambulak on the
Right,
top of the mountain in El Mahdi. That's
right.
still open.
Okay,
The
and we're
next Rock the
coming.
Crown, I want all the sisters to come. We'll
Yeah.
post you up. We're gonna put you on the mountaintop
Oh my
either
goodness.
side of Shambulak and El Mahdi in southern Kazakhstan.
Inshallah.
And we'll do a show from there. That is a
Oh
open
yeah, that'd be
invitation. It
awesome.
happens as soon as you engage, and
Yes.
no further from that. The other thing is, with us, like I said, my background is in program management, process engineering, operational engineering. So, the first thing that I think I looked at, I think years ago, I started this thing called masjids.org, and it's because my father was pushing me and he was like, Faruq, do something, use the technical know-how for the community. Like he pushed me. And one of the things that I looked at when I looked at the city building, I realized that we've never had a specific thing in place. One is not because of the excellence of the individuals who've tried it in the past. They did excellent things. Like if you read Up from Slavery from Booker T. Washington,
Right.
and you see the system that he had in place at Tuskegee University,
Yeah.
it was amazing. He
Yeah.
said, somebody asked me, why do our students not party and do this and that? He said, because they don't have the time. He said, they wake up at 6 o'clock, 6:30, they do this, 7 o'clock, they do this, 7:30, they do this. And he ran it all the way to 10 o'clock at night. He said, ain't no time to do nothing else. So he had a
Right.
beautiful system. But today, we don't just have systems for process. We have technical systems that allow us to automate and reinforce processes. There is a 20 touch point process that happens when you become a citizen of the Freedom Nation. And they're almost, except for 2 points, they're all automated.
Right.
All you do, and we always try to make it where every time you put in a piece of information, it's the smallest amount. So you go to freedomnation.me/apply. I send everybody, freedomnation.me/apply. You'll see that we have 3 different ways to become a citizen. We have a business citizen, residential citizen, and we have what we call a roaming citizen. That's just somebody who don't necessarily want to move into the village, but they want to be part of the community and take advantage of all of the opportunities. There's a basic fee you pay, is annual dues, and you sign a citizenship agreement. But all of it comes at you automatic. We've got people here who man our chat windows 24 hours a day. So when you come in, you'll be met with a bot. That bot is very dynamic. It's actually designed after my mother.
Right.
His name.
I
You
saw
put
her
his name's
yesterday.
Candy. Those who know, and I had to ask my mom. I was like, Mama, I put you on the website. Everybody see you. I said, we look at the stats. Tons of people see you and talk to you every day. And she just started laughing. She was like, next time I show up, they're gonna be like, Sister Sandra, I was talking to you. Like,
Exactly. But it is warm. It's very warm. Like when you see mom on the website, you're like, oh, hey, mom. Yeah, let me ask you a couple of questions.
we are very intentional in coding her conversation to have Black notes in the conversation. So we code her to talk like a Black mother.
Yes.
And that's important. We don't say hello. We don't say assalamu alaikum because we have a Muslim and non-Muslim. So we say uhuru as an acceptable thing, all kinds of interesting stuff. So then once you
thought
get
you
in,
were talking to me at first. I was like, Uhuru, that's my middle name. Yeah, you know me. I was like, do they have like some tracking? I was like, I don't know.
yeah, I got to be honest. We had this brother named Bakir come and join the Freedom Nation. Real smooth brother from New Orleans, got 13 kids, but just the coolest dude I ever met in my life. And he said that he's always Uhuru, brother, Uhuru.
I love it.
So I couldn't get away from it. But it's easy. We try to make it easy as possible. Once you join, you go into our Freedom Citizen portal. And the portal has everything in it. It has all the current news, all the events. You can sign up for the events. You can use both regular currency and freedom credit to pay for anything. And you can even like buy your land and engage your housing finance situation by putting 2 pieces of information in there. Literally what I want to buy and my citizen ID. And it literally will generate all your contracts from all the information we have on record from you, from the onboarding process. There's a lot that happens, but we try to make it as simple as possible. You want to be part of the city. The only caveat is that you can't just walk into the community, right? You can't just become a citizen. When you fill out your form and you submit it, it automatically posts to our online closed Facebook group where all the other citizens are there. And essentially, you need at least one citizen to read your profile and look at your social media and say, yeah, this is somebody who gets us. I would love to have this person as a neighbor or meet them in our spaces.
Wow.
And if 3 people say, I don't want to ever see that person, then that's it. You can't, you won't become a citizen of the nation. And my last point of that, we were having a conversation last year when we initiated this concept of the 1 sponsor, 3 refusal concept. And I said, basic like study of humans, basic anthropology and basic group science tells us that if I set this rule, then what's going to happen is we're going to have 3 people form a little group, not even intentionally. They're just going to emerge inside of our structure that will end up either letting you in or kicking you out.
Right.
And the 3 mamas came up like the 3 queens, is Sister Bayena. I'm putting on the spot. Sister Bayena Malik, Sister Marcia Owens, and Sister Vonda Muhammad. And boy, I'm talking about if you fill out your profile and you just put some junk in it or just a line or whatever, they'd be like, you out.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
But it's good. It's a real community, and they act like that.
Alhamdulillah. That's awesome. That automation is something too. That saves so much time with no matter what it is that you do. So I'm glad you guys have that in place.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My dream is to take our best leaders and convert them to an AI before we die. Listen, I'm not joking. Actually, we actually have made investments in the infrastructure for this, and we do train our machine learning models against decisions and research done on Black leadership.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
I've been watching a lot of AI movies.
Yeah, I love AI. Yeah, I grew up on Terminator.
Yes. I just recently watched the whole series of Peripheral. I'm not trying to do anything, but that was interesting. So, all right. So you are planning on coming back to the United States to live or just to continue to go back and forth?
So I mentioned earlier that this is 1 of 5 locations. So the United States is 1, Kazakhstan, and very specifically the border of Kazakhstan to China. That's two. Number three is in Djibouti, and all those who don't know, we buy some of that infrastructure I just told you about. We buy at the Djibouti data center. The Djibouti is the most open spot to the continent. It is the only free trade zone on the continent, and all of the new highways that connect the entire continent, they all connect right outside of Djibouti, outside of Addis.
Okay.
So it's a very strategic space. Ghana is another one.
Okay.
For several reasons. Not just to give. I got a daughter from Ghana. That's several reasons. The another space is Morocco, but not because of our recent family histories, not with Morocco or our communal histories with Morocco, but because it's always been important. The port of Gibraltar. I think people don't realize that the Gibraltar Strait was actually the reason that America was ever recognized as a country in the first place. That it was there that the King of Morocco actually made the agreement with the United States president that made them a state de facto. I see that Lydium. Like we don't realize that, but that place, that point, has always been important.
That place is so poignant.
So that's there, and then of course we have an idea to work in the Strait of Malacca. So the Strait of Malacca puts us in Sabang Jaya, just south of Malaysia and just north of Singapore. Those are all key areas, and you map it out, look at it, take those terminologies, look at where it is, then look at the Strait of Malacca, and then go over to
it a star? Does it turn into a star?
Yeah,
no, it's not a star.
That's what I started trying to think.
I'm just okay. No, girl. No. That's not what we talking about.
I don't know kind of anime you've been watching or something like that. The star around the world. I watch it too. Don't feel bad. But
but I mentioned it. My
cross, they mean stuff that we can't see in the dark. You gotta shine the light on it. Right?
Full Metal Alchemist is what it was called. That's the anime. Yeah, I get you. Okay, no problem.
Alhamdulillah. It is alhamdulillah.
No, it's not a star, but it's all the key transportation points on the planet. What they call transportation corridors. So do some research around that. The foundation of the future. I want to put a plug in real quick. We had a person as part of our community. His name was Dr. Howard Rashid in Alaiwale Rajun. He was a beautiful person that was underestimated. He was Imam down in Orlando. He was the head of the treasury for the 4,000 acres that Imam Wardi Muhammad built back in the day. And he was a professor at the University of North Carolina over innovation, sciences, and entrepreneurship. He was the number 2 at the 100 Black Men National, the national level. He was a very strong dude, man. And he came to me to help him build a software that took his entire methodology for innovation and put it into a software. So he had a whole innovation methodology that he had built as his, he had, like I said, tenure at UNC. And I sat down and I built this thing for him, but I built it in our software, inside of the software that manages citizen profiles and things of that nature. He passed like not long after that, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month after that. And he passed suddenly, like he was in great shape and he had a brain aneurysm while playing tennis, and so it was amazing that happened. And it was the exact same time that another member of our community, Yusuf Wazuruddin, passed. And and just to kind of tie the two together to explain, Yusuf had led Hajjs for years, and he told me he was tired of it and he wanted to do something different. And the moment they decided to transition, Allah took him out. And I always, that message to me was, a human being can't outlive their purpose. So whatever the person does, especially towards the end of their life, I hold to a high extent. So having this from Dr. Howard Rashid, his process involves analyzing what we call megatrends. And if you know, looking it towards certain mega trends, you can go to some of the big names like the Boston Consulting Group or PwC. You
Right.
can go to Anderson Consultant and pull down mega trends. There's only about 7.
Mhm.
Those mega trends have everything to do, and these mega trends are 10 years old now. But the
Right.
BRICS plus countries binding together and being more powerful than the G7. You know, this is happening in real time right now,
Wow.
right? The
Right.
economy is being stronger. Everything about like just IoT devices and how many happening in real time. You see, we are in the middle of a chip war, right?
Yeah.
Internationally, we're in the middle of a chip war, massive. These things we had started planning for 10 years ago and use his methodology to analyze all the possibilities and all the strategies that we needed in
Right.
order to survive the future. Everything we have done has been in alignment with his process. And everything the Freedom Nation is a product of that planning process. You know, so
Mm.
it is a future orientated communal movement for the Black community. And I really wanted to give him that plug. I love him. Allah sent him to me to do that part. And it is and still an amazing part of what we do.
Yes. Alhamdulillah.
You know.
Did you want to say something really quick, Neil?
No. I'm good. I was just thinking, I'm full. This is awesome. Look, I'm ready to travel again too.
Okay.
Come on.
Well, we're coming, inshallah. 2023, Faruq, we are coming. Hopefully, all 4 of us will be there, and we can do a show live and in color on the mountaintop inside of Kazakhstan. Okay?
Come on. Come on.
So,
You got the invite.
thank right. Okay. But we want to encourage everyone who's listening today and who will listen in the future to again go to is it www or is it just HTTPS?
Just say freedomnation.me.
freedomnation.me and check out the entire website. And again, if you want to apply for citizenship and or be a part of the community in some kind of way, freedomnation.me.apply. And there's also an aspect for people who are interested in business, who would still like to be a part of the community. They have a business, but necessarily don't want to live there. So that's something else to think about. And all these people who are trying to get their businesses to excel, like, yeah, you can't just be making money and not doing all the other stuff. So this is something to think about, adding to your business as well as the legacy of your business. That's important. So we want to encourage everybody to do that. And again, this has been a wonderful episode of Rock the Crown. So, no.
No. I just wanted to, I know Faruq kind of gave some last words, but I don't know if he concluded. So I just wanted to give you the opportunity if there's anything else you want to say before we close out.
Yeah, no, probably the last thing I do want to say is just off of what Naima said about the business portion, you know, and just a couple of numbers really quick, just really ended off a couple of numbers. You know, we try to do a holistic concept of marketing to African Americans in the e-commerce and retail space. I don't know if people realize that over $1 million, there are only 3,000 retail companies in the United States that are over $1 million that are Black owned. Only 3,000. They represent less than 1% of the e-commerce space. We are doing horribly in that space. Horribly. Our margins are horrible. Our margins of the average e-commerce space is 15 to 20%. And that means that if you make $1 million, you got to make $1 million to take home 150 grand.
Yeah.
Right. So you're just making a living at $1 million. We have this move, just take away all of the historical stuff, whatever, and just talk money for the business people. What we've established here, and this is solid, okay? We take that 20% to 45%. And we can do it in 6 to 12 months with you, as long as you understand our methodologies and work with us. That's the benefit of being a business citizen of the Freedom Nation, is increase. If you're making $500,000 a day and you're only taking home 75,000, okay, a year with us and you'll be taking home 200.
Yes.
Right. And again, echoing what you're saying for business people, following your methodology, because sometimes business people want to come and bring their methodology to your stuff and then try to change your stuff around. Again, fully read the website, understand the methodology. If you agree with it, then apply for the sake of your business. as well as, again, citizenship. And as Faruq spoke earlier, there are 30 new, those are 30 new plots, right?
30 new plots. 30 new plots. They usually
30
last for
new
about
plots.
2 weeks.
Okay, 30 new plots here in Georgia that if you are interested in purchasing those plots, go ahead and apply, smile, put good stuff in the comments so your application will be approved, inshallah.
Your mamas will get you.
Cost and tell them the cost for the plots. Do they vary?
So the cost of the plots are $7,000 for 1.25 acres, but you pay $1,000 and we give you 18 months at $325 a month. We finance it internally with no interest. So you get a lease to purchase the day you come in. You have full access to the property the day you sign to come in and do whatever you want.
Right. And if people, again, don't know the value of land here in America and around the world, you are basically sleeping. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. We're gonna end on that note. If you don't know the value of land, you are sleeping. Land is forever. Money fades. Okay, let me just say that. And as we continue on, because we all need some land, okay? Don't give up that little, I don't care if you have a corner of a piece of land next to a $5 million infrastructure, do not give up that corner piece of land. Because let me tell you, that land is going to be worth 10 times that amount if you continue to hold on to it. So this is a whole nother lesson. And for those who this whole episode went over your head, you're not ready yet. You're not ready yet. It's okay. It's okay. Everybody can't come at the same time. It's okay, but get ready. We want everybody to get ready. So again, thank you so much, Faruq. We hope to see you 2023 in Kazakhstan. And for those who are watching Nation, we want to again make sure that you follow us on Instagram, subscribe to us on YouTube, and like us on Facebook. And again, next week will be our final episode for season 6. I can't believe it. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. But alhamdulillah, thank you all so much. And inshallah, we will see you on the flip side. Peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.